My name is Eleanor Hale, and I never thought my own son would be the one to humiliate me in front of the entire world. It happened on an ordinary Sunday morning. I was making coffee, the same way I always do. 2 spoons of sugar, one for me, one for the memory of my late husband. The house was quiet except for the faint buzz of my phone on the counter. I wiped my hands and looked down at the screen. There it was, a Facebook post from my son, Lucas. At first, I smiled. Maybe he'd shared a photo of Sophie, my granddaughter, but when I opened it, my smile froze. In the picture, I saw myself standing by the porch, watering the flowers, and above it, Lucas had written, "If my mom didn't have her name on this house, I would have kicked her out a long time ago." There were laughing emojis, comments from his friends, even one from his coworker saying, "Savage. Man." My hands trembled. I could feel my pulse hammering in my chest. I read the caption again, slower this time, as if each word might somehow change. It didn't. He'd posted it publicly, where everyone could see. The coffee mug slipped from my fingers and shattered on the tile. For a long moment, I just stood there, surrounded by the sound of something breaking that wasn't just porcelain. I took a deep breath, walked over to the laptop, opened the post again, and typed beneath it. My hands were still shaking, but my voice was steady. "Son, the house you're living in was never yours." Then I hit enter. That was all I said. No anger, no explanation. But in that single comment, I knew I had crossed a line, one I could never step back from. Because when your own child turns you into a joke, you stop being just a mother. You start becoming something else. A woman who finally decides enough is enough. The post stayed online for hours before Lucas deleted it, but by then the damage was already done. Neighbors, church friends, even my bridge group had seen it. No one said a word to me, but I could feel it, the quiet pity in their smiles, the way conversations shifted when I entered the room. That night, the house felt too large. Every sound echoed, the hum of the fridge, the clock ticking, the creak of the stairs. Upstairs, I could hear Sophie humming to herself, the same tune I used to sing to Lucas when he was little. Funny how a song could hurt now. I sat at the kitchen table, the laptop open in front of me. The glow from the screen lit the unpaid bills, a reminder of how I'd been keeping this place afloat for years. Lucas had moved back home after his divorce, saying he needed a few months to get back on his feet. That was 4 years ago. He'd been charming at first, full of promises and plans. He said he was starting a tech business, that I'd be proud of him again. I believed him, because that's what mothers do. We believe. I helped pay off his car loan so he could start fresh. I cooked every night, kept the house clean, watched Sophie after school so he could focus on work. Each time he said thank you, I thought maybe, just maybe, he remembered the boy who used to hug me before bedtime. But lately, the tone had changed. He was colder. He spent hours in his office, door locked, snapping whenever I asked if he'd eaten. "I'm working, Mom," he'd say, as if the word mom itself was a burden. Then came the small things. Missing money from my purse, new electronics arriving at the door with my name on the receipt. When I asked, he'd laugh it off. Oh, they must have mixed up the billing address. I wanted to believe him, but deep down, something heavy was starting to form in my chest. Doubt. It was a Tuesday when the first real crack appeared. I'd gone to pay the water bill online when I noticed a charge from the bank, a loan installment I didn't recognize, $5,000. I called customer service. Sure, it was a mistake. The woman on the line was polite, professional. "Mrs. Hale," she said, "it looks like this is a business loan under your joint account with L Systems LLC." I frowned. I don't have a business, and I don't know what that is. She hesitated. According to our records, you're listed as co-owner, along with a Mr. Lucas Hale. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My own name, used for something I'd never signed. The room blurred a little. After hanging up, I walked upstairs to his office. The door was closed, music playing faintly behind it. I knocked once. He opened it halfway, eyes darting from me to the phone in his hand. "What's up, Mom?" "I just got off the phone with the bank," I said quietly. "They mentioned a company, L Systems." He blinked, then shrugged. "Oh, that. It's nothing serious. I needed a business partner to file some paperwork. You've got good credit, so I put your name down. It's temporary." I stared at him. "You used my name." "Mom, relax. It's just paperwork. Everyone does it." I could hear my own heartbeat. I wanted to believe him so badly, but something inside me cracked right then, not loudly, just a small, quiet break that wouldn't heal. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the streetlights shimmer across the wet pavement. It rained lightly, and the smell of it reminded me of the night my husband died, a storm, a phone call, and silence. I had built my life on surviving things I never thought I could. But this betrayal came from the one person I had given everything to. By morning, I had made coffee again, though it tasted different. Lucas came down the stairs, phone in hand, talking loudly about investors and deadlines. He poured himself cereal, didn't look at me. I wanted to scream, to demand why, to tell him he'd broken something sacred. Instead, I said, "Your daughter needs lunch money for her field trip." He waved a hand. "Use the card. It's on the counter." When I checked later, the card was declined. That was the moment I decided to find the truth. I wasn't angry yet, not the kind of anger that burns. This was quieter, colder, the kind that sits inside your chest and waits. "Before leaving for work," Lucas said, "I've got a meeting downtown. Don't wait up." The moment his car left the driveway, I opened his office door. The air smelled of coffee and something metallic, like the faint tang of guilt. His desk was cluttered with receipts, papers, a half-empty energy drink. On the corner of the desk lay a folder. It read L Systems LLC in bold letters. I opened it, hands trembling. Inside were printed contracts, loan statements, and my name, scrawled in a signature I'd never written. I felt my throat tighten. The signature was perfect, practiced. I touched the ink, wondering how long he'd been planning this. In that moment, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I simply folded the papers back and whispered to the empty room, "All right, Lucas, let's see who you've become." Downstairs, I heard the faint echo of the clock striking noon. It sounded like a countdown, one I hadn't realized had already started. The papers stayed hidden in the drawer of my nightstand for 3 days. I told myself I needed time to think, but in truth, I was afraid of what I might find if I kept digging. Every time Lucas smiled at me across the breakfast table, every time Sophie hugged me goodnight, I felt that folder burning through the wood upstairs. On the 4th morning, I drove to the branch listed on the loan statement. The banker, a young woman with a polite smile, asked for my ID. She clicked through her computer for a while, then frowned. "Mrs. Hale. These accounts show your authorization signatures on 3 documents. One for the business loan, one for a credit line, and one for a second mortgage on your home." My stomach turned. "A second mortgage?" "Yes, ma'am, taken out last November for $180,000. Payments have been late for 2 months. I pressed my palms to the counter. "Who signed those forms?" She turned the monitor slightly so I could see. My name stared back at me. Perfect loops and curves. I'd written that name thousands of times in my life, but never once on those papers. "Can I get copies of everything?" I asked. She nodded, printing them out one by one. The sound of the printer filled the silence between us. I took the pages, thanked her, and walked out into the cold air. For a long moment, I sat in the car, the papers on my lap. A mother's instinct always tells her when her child lies. What hurts most is realizing the lie isn't new. It's just grown bolder. That evening, I called an old friend, Carolyn, who used to work in a mortgage office before she retired. She came over with a thermos of tea and her reading glasses. We spread the documents across my kitchen table. She read in silence, her lips tightening. "This is fraud, Ellie. He copied your signature. These are notarized. He must have forged your ID, too." I shook my head. "I don't understand why he'd do it. I gave him everything." Carolyn sighed. "Maybe that's the problem." The next day, I made an appointment with an attorney, Ms. Carter. A young black lawyer with sharp eyes and a calm voice listened without interrupting as I told her everything, from the Facebook post to the forged mortgage. When I finished, she folded her hands. "Mrs. Hale, you have every legal right to reclaim your property, but I need to be honest. This will destroy your relationship with your son." I stared at the window behind her, where the city skyline glowed in the afternoon light. "It already is destroyed," I said quietly. She nodded. "Then we start with an investigation. I'll need access to the property deed, your credit reports, and any communication from the bank." Over the next week, I gathered everything. Each document was another wound I didn't know I had. My name appeared on business accounts I'd never heard of. One transaction showed a wire transfer to a company in Florida, a real estate LLC connected to Lucas's business partner. When I showed it to Ms. Carter, she frowned. "That's money laundering territory. You're lucky we caught it now." That night, I sat in the dark living room, unable to sleep. I watched the light from Lucas's office flicker under his door upstairs. The tapping of his keyboard was steady, almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat. I remembered him as a little boy sitting at this same table, building Lego towers and saying he'd be an architect one day. I'd saved that tower in a box somewhere, along with his kindergarten art and Father's Day cards. I wondered what he'd think if he saw the box now, if he'd recognize the woman sitting in the dark, wondering where she went wrong. The following afternoon, while Lucas was out, I received a call from his daughter's school. The secretary said Sophie's tuition payment hadn't gone through. "That's strange," I said. "Her father told me it was paid." The woman hesitated. "Mrs. Hale, the account we have on file for Sophie's tuition was closed last week." I hung up, numb. Lucas had even closed his daughter's account to cover his debts. I called Ms. Carter again. "Do we have enough evidence?" "Almost," she said. "One more confirmation from the bank and we'll be ready." 2 days later, she called back. "Eleanor, we traced 3 separate loans under your name, totaling $230,000, each with your forged signature. We also found a payment of $40,000 transferred from your son's trust fund into his company account. I'm filing a cease order." I didn't respond. The numbers didn't matter anymore. What broke me was the thought that Lucas had taken not just my trust, but his daughter's future. That night, he came home late. I was waiting at the kitchen table. "Hey, Mom," he said, pretending not to notice the pile of papers in front of me. "Lucas, sit down." He hesitated, then dropped into the chair across from me. "I went to the bank," I said. "They showed me the mortgage papers. Your signature and mine." He rubbed his face, groaning. "Mom, please, don't make a big deal out of this. I was going to fix it. You forged my name. I'll pay it off. You won't lose anything. It's not about the money. Lucas, It's about the kind of man you've become. He slammed his hand on the table. You think I wanted this? You think I enjoy asking you for help? I didn't answer. His voice cracked, but not from guilt, just frustration. When he stormed upstairs, the sound of his door slamming echoed through the whole house. I sat there long after, staring at the empty chair across from me. The papers fluttered slightly in the breeze from the open window. One of them slid to the floor, the mortgage document with my forged signature. I bent to pick it up, smoothing the crease with my hand. The ink was smudged from where my tears had fallen earlier, but the signature was still there. Perfect, elegant, false. Outside, the night was silent except for the wind moving through the trees. I looked toward Lucas's closed door and whispered, "You used my name to build your dreams. Now you'll hear my voice when they come crashing down." The following week passed in silence. Lucas avoided me, leaving early, returning late. We spoke only through short messages scribbled on sticky notes about groceries or Sophie's schedule. He must have sensed the distance because he didn't look me in the eye anymore. Then one evening, Ms. Carter called. "Eleanor," she said, "we're ready. I've drafted the legal notice. But it's better if you speak to him face to face, with me present. We can give him one last chance to cooperate before this goes to the authorities." I hesitated. My heart told me to wait, to protect him one more time, but my mind reminded me of every paper, every lie, every hollow promise. "Set it up," I said. 2 days later, I met them at Miss Carter's office. The building smelled of coffee and printer ink, cold air conditioning humming above us. Lucas was already there when I arrived, sitting stiffly in a chair by the window. He didn't greet me. "Ms. Carter began calmly, sliding a folder across the desk. "Mr. Hale, we have clear evidence of identity theft, mortgage fraud, and financial misrepresentation. Your mother's name was forged on multiple contracts. These are federal offenses." Lucas scoffed, forcing a laugh. "You make it sound like I robbed a bank. It's family business, not a crime. Fraud is fraud." Carter said evenly. "Even if it's done to your own mother." His smirk faltered. He glanced at me for the first time in days. "Mom, tell her this isn't what you want." I met his gaze. "What I want," I said slowly, "is for you to understand what you've done." He ran a hand through his hair. Restless. "I was trying to save my company. If I didn't get those loans, everything would have collapsed. I thought I could fix it before you found out. And you would have lost the house, my home, in the process. It's just a house," he shouted. The words hit me harder than any blow could. I took a breath, steadying my voice. "That house is where I raised you, Lucas, where your father took his last breath. You think it's just bricks? It's the last thing I have left of the life we built." He looked away. For a moment, I thought I saw something crack in his expression. Shame, maybe, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Ms. Carter pushed another paper toward him. "Here's the agreement. You transfer all property rights back to your mother, dissolve the LLC, and repay the debts through a structured plan. In exchange, we won't press criminal charges." Lucas laughed bitterly. "You're blackmailing me now?" "No," I said softly. "I'm offering you mercy." The room went still. The hum of the air conditioner filled the silence between us. He stared at the paper. His jaw tightened. For a long time, he didn't move. Then his voice came out low, bitter. "You're choosing money over your own son." I shook my head. "I'm choosing self-respect. I'm choosing peace." His pen scraped across the page. The sound was sharp and final. He signed, each stroke angry, heavy. When it was done, he pushed the folder toward Miss Carter and stood up. "Congratulations, Mom, you win." "No," I whispered. "We both lose?" He walked out, the door slamming behind him. The echo lingered long after he was gone. "Miss..." Carter placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing." I nodded, though my throat burned. The right thing doesn't always feel right. When I stepped outside, the air was crisp, the sky pale with evening. I stood on the sidewalk for a long time, watching cars pass, people laugh. Lives continue as if mine hadn't just collapsed and rebuilt itself in the same hour. Somewhere inside, I knew this was the moment everything changed, not just between me and Lucas, but between the woman I was and the one I had to become. I wasn't just someone's mother anymore. I was a survivor learning to live with the cost of loving too much. After Lucas left, the house turned silent in a way that felt almost sacred. For years, I had wished for quiet, for peace. But this wasn't the silence I had imagined. It was the kind that lingered in corners, heavy and thoughtful, filled with echoes of things unsaid. Each morning I made coffee for one. The sound of the spoon tapping against the mug felt too loud in the empty kitchen. Some days, I caught myself setting 2 cups out of habit, one for me, one for the memory of who he used to be. I started to pack. His office was the hardest room. Receipts, contracts, and broken promises littered the desk. Beneath a stack of papers, I found a faded drawing Sophie had made, 3 stick figures under a crooked roof. She'd written family in big purple letters. I traced the word with my finger, wondering when that word had stopped meaning us. Then I found something else, the old Lego tower Lucas built when he was 7. It leaned to one side, missing a few pieces, but I remembered how proud he'd been when he finished it. I placed it on the windowsill for the first time in months. I smiled. When the sale papers were signed, I stood alone in the living room, the sunlight falling across the bare floorboards. I whispered goodbye to the house, not with anger, but with gratitude for every meal, every memory, and even every heartbreak it had held. I moved north to a small coastal town in Washington. The air smelled like salt and cedar, and the nights were filled with the sound of waves instead of shouting. My new home was smaller, but it was mine, completely. Finally. I spent my days volunteering at the community center, helping other women untangle finances after divorce or loss. It gave me purpose. And slowly, the ache in my chest began to soften. I used part of the money from the sale to start a small scholarship for single mothers, named the Hale Foundation. After my husband, he used to tell me, kindness means nothing if it doesn't have a backbone. Now, I finally understood what he meant. One afternoon, a letter arrived. The handwriting was careful, familiar. It was from Lucas. Mom, I've paid off the loans. I'm working construction now. Sophie's doing better. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm trying. I'm sorry. I read it twice, then folded it neatly and placed it in the drawer beside the old Lego tower. I didn't cry. I just sat there for a long while, letting the quiet hold me. That evening, I walked along the shore, the sea breeze tugging gently at my hair. The sky was pale gold, and for the first time in years, I felt something simple and whole: peace. Peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of boundaries. The tide came in, cold against my shoes, and this time, I didn't step back. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these family drama and revenge stories, please subscribe and join me for more every day.